And now, with, of course, the current difficulties that we're facing as far as power supply is concerned, we ask the question, why is Eskom not operating optimally? I'm joined now on the line by Professor Jannie Rossouw from the Wits Economics Department. Prof, good evening and thank you for your time tonight. The big issues, I mean, put this thing in context for us. The troubles at Eskom, where do they emanate from?
Good evening and good evening to your viewers. In short, Eskom lacks transparency. To get to grips with Eskom as a state monopoly, we need a lot more transparency at Eskom so that taxpayers, who after all subsidize the operations of Eskom, can understand what is exactly going on at the organization.
Now, currently, you've got customers who are paying for a service, but Eskom is saying, well, whether you're paying or not, we are dealing with a situation of illegal connection, so we are going to do what is called load reduction. So between certain hours in the morning and certain hours in the evening, even though you're paying, even though you're a loyal customer, you're not going to get the full service of Eskom. How do they deal with that?
Well, in my view, Eskom cannot punish paying customers for its inability to prevent illegal connections. So paying customers can't help Eskom carry the difficulty of its own inability to prevent illegal connections.
But Eskom is a monopoly right now in as far as transmission is concerned, so those customers don't even have an option to can say, oh, well, we'll go and connect somewhere else and be able to get that transmission.
No, Eskom is indeed a monopoly, and that's why I'm of the view that Eskom's board meetings should be opened for the public and for the media so that we can get increased transparency. And I'm also of the view that Eskom's contracts, all their contracts, each and every contract should be published on its website so that it can be the subject of scrutiny. It's only once we have that level of transparency at Eskom that the public will have confidence in the monopoly again and will begin to understand its own problems.
Is this monopoly situation unusual in the 21st century?
I'm very sorry, I didn't hear that
I'm saying,
question.
is this monopoly situation unusual in a 21st century kind of setup? If you look at the globe and the rest of the world.
Well, you have different examples in different parts of the world. Some have competing electricity production, some have monopolies. But in our case, the big problem with Eskom is, of course, state capture that took place and corruption that took place. Whereas other utilities, whether they are monopolies or whether they are competitive conditions in other countries, are run on sound business principles. We didn't see that at Eskom at the past. And therefore it's important for Eskom to put the public in a position to have confidence in its operations again.
Now, the big issue, of course, is the operating cost and the 400 billion rand debt that Eskom is trying to deal with. We know that there is change in regulation now that allows certain municipalities who are in good standing financially and who can display capacity to be able to generate electricity and distribute for themselves. Does that help the Eskom model in any way?
No, Eskom has to understand that it's in a shrinking market. More and more we will see people putting solar panels on their roofs, generating their own electricity. So Eskom has to accept that it's in a shrinking market, and Eskom has to reinvent itself in a way that it can deal with shrinking demand. A good start for Eskom would be to change the name of its head office complex from Megawatt Park to Kilowatt Park. That would show that Eskom understands that it is in a different type of market and can't continue to operate as it did in the past.
So, I mean, are you saying it's likely to sell less electricity going forward?
Yes, Eskom is likely to sell less electricity because Eskom is not a reliable supplier, and therefore increasingly people will look at other options, like for instance, say solar or wind energy to generate for their own use. We're increasingly going to see that. As a result, Eskom's demand will continue to shrink even when the economy starts growing again.